What's going on, everybody? RE Solutions here for this week's Tidbit Thursday, and we have a good one this weekend. But first, I want to say that the ladies are back. They weren't here last week. Yeah. Linda celebrating her 55th birthday. No, just kidding.
We got to admit, they both look better than Sean.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But this week, we're actually going to be talking to David Housley from Lifetime HOA Management. We're going to be talking about HOAs and getting some information about HOAs. A lot of, obviously here in San Antonio, there's a bunch of different HOAs and stuff like that. But we're going to get to talk to somebody that actually knows about it.
An actual specialist.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
normally you call HOA and you get a voicemail. But those are the bigger companies, obviously, right? So, but we're going to be talking to David Housley here in a little bit. So stay tuned. All right, everybody. So HOA today, but before we get into that, if you don't know who we are RE Solutions. We are a residential real estate and property management company that loves to educate and help people find solutions for all their real estate needs. And we do that by doing this Tidbit Thursday every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. And we do other conferences. We also like to talk about San Antonio, working, living, and playing in San Antonio. So we try to put out other videos. So make sure that you like and follow us on Facebook and all that stuff. And that information is down below. But today, once again, we are talking to Mr. David Housley. I'll let Belinda talk to you about him because she's the one that
He's one of 3 owners of Lifetime HOA Management, and he was very kind enough today to take some time out of his busy schedule to talk with us and kind of dispel some myths of HOAs and give us the real facts about HOA management and what they can and can't do.
So here's David.
Hi, David.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
Thanks so much for taking time today to talk with us about HOAs and the management companies. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So as you mentioned, I'm one of 3 owners here at Lifetime HOA Management. We started the company about 6 years ago. One of my partners, he used to work in the industry years ago, and he saw a lot of the issues and problems with residents and board members and the industry itself. And he just figured that, hey, we've got an opportunity here to really put together a better product. And so that's what led us to start our company. And 6 years later, we're still growing and thriving, and just really enjoying our opportunity we have to service homeowners and board members and communities here in San Antonio.
That's awesome.
That is. Congratulations on 6 years in business.
Yes, definitely.
And
thank you.
Thank you for taking a product that a lot of people grumble about and making it better. You seem very passionate and very knowledgeable about the HOA management world.
So
yes. I mean, we're just trying to make it better, right? We see there's just a lot of communities, especially here in San Antonio in the South Texas area, a lot of communities that are a part of HOA neighborhoods. And we just think there's a great opportunity there to improve kind of the image around HOAs and improve everyone's knowledge around those.
Absolutely.
And you said you're originally from South Carolina, and you got to San Antonio, and eventually, obviously, you got into this HOA business. What made you decide to get into the HOA, trying to, work with these big HOA companies that are usually around there?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an easy decision. This is something my partners and I discussed for some time before ultimately deciding to make the leap into the business. But again, we just saw an opportunity. We had an idea that we could create a better structure, create a better product, a better service for homeowners. And so we just moved forward and decided to go for it.
Okay, so basically, can you tell us what is an HOA? What are
Yeah,
HOAs in a nutshell?
Sure. That's a good question. So an HOA essentially is just a community of neighbors. You might see a lot of these different neighborhoods as you drive around. Well, everyone who lives in a specific neighborhood that's governed by certain deeds and restrictions and covenants belongs to an HOA. So it really is, all the people in your neighborhood. If you happen to live within an HOA, it's all of the people in the community. So each individual person is part of that HOA.
So why would you say that they're important to have? Like, what do HOAs do?
That's a good question. So a lot of newer neighborhoods, I should say. I mean, there's some here in San Antonio that, might be 30 or 40 years old that are part of an HOA. But what we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years is larger development companies and larger home builders have generally structured their community building and structured their developments around building new homes within an HOA. And part of the reason is one, to provide amenities to the homeowner and the community. And the other is just to provide some continuity and consistency and some standards around a neighborhood with the end goal of sustaining property values for the whole community.
That makes sense.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So how are these HOAs actually set up?
Yeah, so they're set up by the developer. Again, a developer might come across a piece of land that they want to buy, and they'll develop it. And then what they'll do is look at the land and decide, okay, what kind of amenities do I want to provide the community members? And it might be a common areas such as tennis courts or basketball courts, or maybe a park, or maybe even a community pool. And so all these amenities are provided for the benefits of all the residents within the neighborhood.
So are you as the management group in charge of the HOAs? Like, do you make the rules? And
Yes, that's a good question. So again, it goes back to the original development of the neighborhood and the development by the developer. So what they'll do is they will establish covenants and deeds and restrictions about how they want the neighborhood to be structured going forward. And so that's how it's established is at the very beginning from the developer. And what we find is that the developer and eventually the neighborhood, when members move in and owners move in, and they need help to manage all the affairs that take place within a community. And so that's when they look outside to a management company, such as Lifetime HOA Management. They'll look to us to handle a lot of the administrative duties of helping to run the association.
okay, but you guys aren't really in charge of the HOA, right? It's really a board of members.
Yes, exactly. Good question. So most HOAs will elect a board of, let's say, 3 or 5 or maybe even 7 board members to serve on the board of directors. And these board members, they're just, they're your neighbors. They're volunteers. They're residents in the association that give their time to help oversee the affairs of the community. And so the board of directors will then hire an outside management company, such as Lifetime, to help them manage the affairs of the community. But we don't make the rules. We don't, go out and enforce our own policies. We operate specifically under the direction of the board.
So what about money? Because I know a lot of times people want to know kind of like where the money's, the budget, basically. Are you guys in charge of the budget?
Yeah, so that's a significant part of what we do in our management services. And that's part of our financial management solutions that we provide board members, because each member that lives in the community, they're required to pay dues in order to help pay for some of the expenses that the community is faced with, whether you might have a pool or a common area or a park, or even some other areas with landscaping, et cetera. These communities are like small little cities with, a variety of expenses that need to be taken care of. And so each homeowner is required to pay dues, and these dues go to pay for the upkeep and the expenses for a lot of these services.
So the HOA management company doesn't really provide the budget, right? That's provided by the board of directors, but you actually do all the work for that budget, right?
Yeah. So we partner with the board of directors is the best way to look at that. We partner with them when they're going through their budget planning cycle, and we help them to budget every year to say, okay, this is what we're going to need for, your water bills or your power, or maybe your landscaping vendor might, be this much annually, or, we have a trash collector that needs to come around and make sure common areas are upkept and things like that. So we help them not only budget for all those items and for all those vendors, but then we also help manage all the vendor relationships that come in that touch each neighborhood.
Right.
That makes sense. I mean, I can barely keep up with my own budget. I couldn't imagine trying to keep up with the whole neighborhood. So hire the professionals to do that.
Exactly right. So,
And I know some communities, especially the older communities, have an HOA that is voluntary. So what does that mean? And why would it be voluntary?
As far as a resident being part of the HOA or not, and buying into that. Well, some of the older ones, some might have a community area like a pool and a clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wish to have access to those amenities, then you need to buy into that. It's kind of like, it's kind of like a health club, right? If you want to go to the health club and work out, you've got to pay your dues. And some of the older ones are like that. I should say a lot of the newer ones, when you move into a community, you're automatically a part of that HOA. And so your dues are required.
Okay.
And that's something Denise and I were talking about earlier with you, was when a person is going to buy in a community with a mandatory HOA, there's certain documents that they need to receive and review. And I'm going to let you.
Oh, yeah. So we have to fill out an addendum whenever when a property is in an HOA. So the first thing that we have to indicate is that the seller will pay for the resale certificate. So can you explain exactly what that means? If a buyer is going to receive, what exactly happens and what do they get?
Yeah, so the resale certificate, it's a very important document. And it's something before you buy a home, you're going to want to pay for this document, because it really does two things. First, it gives you the financial status of the seller and their account within the HOA. So you want to make sure that property that you're buying, they're current on all the dues that they owe and so forth. We've seen horror stories where the resale certificate is not ordered. Somebody might move into a property, and then once they assume that property, and if the previous owner was not current on their dues, well, that current owner is responsible for those. And so that resale certificate really protects the prospective buyer before they go into an HOA neighborhood, to make sure whoever they're buying that neighborhood from, that person is current on their, with their financial status with regards to their HOA account. And then the second part of that is the prospective buyer also gets a financial standing of the HOA itself. Like we discussed, these HOAs are sometimes like they operate like little cities. There's money coming in, there's money going out. Well, if that money is somehow mismanaged in some way, for example, a neighborhood might take on a project that maybe goes over budget. They maybe get a little extended. Maybe they're having a hard time collecting dues from residents. And so income sources aren't matching up with income disbursements. Well, now you have an HOA in a poor financial position. And so before you move in to a neighborhood, you want to make sure that HOA is in strong financial position. And so that's a key element of that resale document.
Okay. And so, because it says resale certificate, but really they're not just getting a certificate. They're getting a whole bunch of documents, correct?
Right. We research the financial standing of the current owner of the HOA, and we prepare, a comprehensive financial package.
Okay.
That's what's involved for each purchase of that.
Yeah, because I know that when title orders it, most HOAs have a 10-day turnaround from when they request it to send it back, correct?
Yes. In fact, our company, we have the longest time frame. Ours is a 5 business day turnaround.
Okay.
And if you do need an expedited document, we will expedite it to you. There's an additional fee for that, but we will expedite that to you, which can be as soon as next business day. So.
Okay. And so the second part of that addendum at the is the transfer fee. So can you explain why buyers will need to pay? What does the transfer fee really cover?
So that sets up the account that closes out the prior owner's account and establishes a new account for the new homeowner. So it's a lot of records management involved with that.
Gotcha. Okay. See, these are things that we would explain, we would tell the buyers, like, you're paying for this, but I don't think we really understood
it's
why.
Important.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, a lot of people just don't know, and so they not sure if they need it. And it's few and far between, but we do see individuals where they try to go around that. And most of the time they're safe, but sometimes you might get caught. And so then in trying to circumvent things, it really ends up being a significant impact to you. So,
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody who's like, oh, an HOA? Because we get buyers. We don't want an HOA. What do you say to people when they, they have that attitude about an HOA?
Yeah, I would just say, for the most part, I think it's a matter of a lot of people not understanding what they're getting. They see the money they have to pay, but they're not seeing the benefit. They don't see kind of the details behind that of what the money is used for and where the money is going. For another example, a lot of HOAs are set up with not only an operating account to take care of more of the day-to-day business activities and expenses and things like that, but they also have a reserve account that they should, if they're operating smartly, they should park some funds into that reserve account periodically for larger expense items that might happen. If you have, for example, if you live in a gated community, all of the streets behind those gates, those are private roads. Now, if something happens to those roads, the HOA is responsible for the complete replacement of those streets. And that can be a significant cost. And so it's smart to have reserve funds built up to take care, of these significant items that may arise.
So I think it's easy for people to see where if they have pools and parks and stuff where the money may be going, but what are some other things that HOA fees are helping to cover?
I would say part of what we do is we drive the neighborhoods twice a month. And part of the positive nature, I guess, of living within an HOA is that the members and the residents, they have a standard of care to uphold with keeping their lawns kept clean and their streets clean, and keeping also their homes and their neighbors in their lawns and areas to a certain level of I don't want to say uniformity, but a certain level of standard, I guess.
Yeah.
So somebody might not, somebody might, it might prevent someone to, paint their house purple or to now build this huge garage extension that's 2 stories high in the front of their yard or things like that. So it's, part of the rules and restrictions are kind of derived to keep some kind of standard within the community. Now, if you have a desire to add on to your house, to replace your fence, to put in a pool, to do any improvement or change to your property, you need to get approval first. You need to get approval from what we call an architectural committee, and you need to submit plans for what you're doing and get approval from that committee before you go ahead and make significant changes to your property.
Okay. And so as far as you, Lifetime, do you manage single family home communities, or do you manage condos, both, or what?
Yes, good question. So we manage both single family home communities and condo association communities as well.
Okay. And as far as the maintenance, because I know the last team that I was on, we were trying to do HOA management, but we shied away from it because it was a condo. So maintenance on a condo, you obviously are, you have that fine line between the actual building maintenance and maintenance that's for the actual owners of the condos. How do you work that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Condos are a little bit different. I mean, there's a common building there. And so, what we see is condo association dues can be significantly higher than single family home dues. And that's because there's more involved with the protection of the building, the structure, the roof, for example.
Right.
Everybody needs to share that responsibility. In regards to your question about maintenance, it really varies in this specific property to property. We have some properties that have like their own on-site maintenance manager. We have some that, we have vendors that will come and assume maintenance responsibilities.
Right.
On a case-by-case basis. But as a resident, as an owner of a condo, you're responsible pretty much for inside the walls of your home, but then everything else outside is association.
Right. Yeah, I know we had a couple of times a situation that it was plumbing work and water had to be shut off to the whole building because of one unit, and trying to coordinate that with the management that was there. They had an in-house maintenance person. Sometimes was pretty difficult because they only had one point of contact for us. So my hat's off to you in dealing with that. So
yeah, it certainly can be a challenge. It certainly can be a challenge. Yeah, we've tried to set things up where our community managers are that single point of contact. We try to maintain a real flat organization and an organization that's easy to deal with, both for board of directors and for homeowners. And so if you have a question or an issue, you have a single person to call, and so you're not trying to chase around. Okay, who handles this piece or who handles that piece?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it seems to have worked out really well for us.
And as far as violations, and I'm not going to go deep into violations, but how come and this is probably in your opinion, I guess,
Mhm.
why is all HOAs in San Antonio seem to have different levels of violations?
Well, two answers, I guess. One is each individual community has their own separate, bylaws and guidelines and regulations. And so it might not be exactly the same from community to community. And the second part is the board of directors. They're the team that really drives, the actions on behalf of the management company. Sometimes we might be a new management company to an association, and we'll meet with the board and find out what's important with it, what's important to the board, what's important to the homeowners, what should we focus on as we come in and try and improve the neighborhood and try to work with the board. So they might have different things we want to focus on, whether it might be an issue with people parking in the street. Some neighborhoods, they won't allow for overnight parking, so to speak.
Right.
And maybe that's a problem. And maybe unkept lawns are being a problem, or maybe, there might be some small issues. And so depending on what the board wants the management company to focus on, they'll tell us, they'll give us some marching orders, so to speak, and then we'll go and implement those on behalf of the board.
Okay.
So if somebody's not happy with it, should they take their concerns to the board or to the management group?
Well, we prefer them to come to us. That's part of what we do, and part of the service we provide is we're the enforcers. The board has hired us to be the enforcers and to deal with those who have violations. We'd hate for a resident to go after, a fellow neighbor or a fellow resident that's serving on the board. They're looking out for what's best in the neighborhood, right? And we're certainly we certainly want to you want to act in their best interest as well. So if there's a question about violations, come with us. Come see us and come give us your problems and your issues. We'll discuss it with the board if we have to, but that's part of our function as a management company.
Okay.
Makes sense.
It's
Because
like those
sometimes
commercials. That's the HOA president.
Right.
I've seen some of those Facebook posts.
Yeah.
So we're almost to
I
the
got one
end
more
of our
question.
podcast, and it seems like we have. What are some common things that people call you about that is not your jurisdiction?
Well, that's a good question. Because we're a management company, we're out in the community and we're out, driving the streets and taking care of things. Sometimes we get phone calls and notices for some strange things. One might be for suspicious activity or something, potentially even criminal activity. And so we're not a security guard service. We don't we don't monitor the neighborhoods 24/7. We're on site as much as we can, but we're not out there constantly, making sure that kids aren't playing in the street. The other day we had somebody want us to intervene. I guess there were some kids playing in the street and some balls were hitting someone's vehicle. And so they wanted us to intervene and kind of a neighbor on neighbor situation like that. That's not something we can get involved with. So
Makes sense.
What's your question?
Can I ask my question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And then we gotta finish.
I'm like, David he has a job to do.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, once again, what's your thoughts in getting any government entity to standardize HOAs in the future?
Oh, that's a good
Do
question.
you think that's
I
something
didn't know
that's
he was
going
going
to
to
come?
ask that.
Sorry.
That's a good question though, because you do have issues like the flags, that we know had come out in the last few years that they can ban flags and things of that nature.
Right.
Chickens,
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah, things
there's
that,
certain, and and I think there's different levels, right? Within the city limits of San Antonio, you're allowed to do certain things, right?
Right.
That an HOA can't prevent you from doing. So there's some gray area there. As much as as much as the structure and the setup of an HOA as it can provide, I'd hate to see any larger or broader government influence,
Right. Oh, no, I'm not saying.
into communities. So
Yeah, I'm not saying like the government taking over the HOAs. I'm saying like
Right.
standardizing stuff, kind of like,
Mhm.
for us, obviously as realtors, we have a certain standard that we have to abide by in every little thing
Mhm.
that we do. So, kind of standard operating procedures. So minimum standards that the HOAs can enforce, basically, kind of thing.
yeah. I think there's some merit to that, to kind of standardize things. So that would be, that'd be interesting to see that develop.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's going to.
Yeah.
he was just asking.
I was just asking because that was one of
Right.
the questions we've always had. How one HOA can be so extreme on some of their violations while others are so
Right.
lenient on it,
Mhm.
right? And my I guess we had a situation once that we had a person that had a vehicle with a magnetic tag for I think it was one of the hospitals. He worked at one of the hospitals, but basically he couldn't park his car in the driveway because he had this magnetic sign on his car
Wow.
because they were saying it's a commercial vehicle. But it was
Okay.
a personal vehicle. He just had the magnetic thing on there. So we had a battle with the HOA on that. And we lost anyway. He had to take off the magnet or park his car inside the garage. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, there's going to be some variances between neighborhood and neighborhood.
yeah,
And it is possible to have the covenants and the restrictions changed. I mean, it takes a majority of the neighbors or the owners in a neighborhood
right.
to vote for a change, but it can be done. It can be done if there's enough support behind making a change like that. It can be done because at the end of the day, everybody who lives in the neighborhood, they're all part of the HOA, and so if they come to an agreement on something to change it, then they can certainly make that change.
Awesome.
You've
Awesome.
been amazing. Thank you so much. So if somebody is interested in finding out about maybe how to get their community involved with Lifetime HOA, what should they do?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, lifetimehoamanagement.com. You can also call me directly. Again, my name is David Housley, and my direct line is 210. I'll give you my cell phone, 210-364-6351. I think you saw our company phone number down there as well. But again, my direct line is 210-364-6351. And I appreciate the time with you guys today.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. It was wonderful to meet you.
Yes. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks,
We
David.
appreciate all the information.
Stay warm.
Great. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So that was David from Lifetime HOA Management. We'll put more information on his cell phone and all that stuff down in the description and stuff.
Brave
like
man.
That,
I know.
Giving
Yeah.
out his cell phone number.
That was a lot of good information.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
You know, I had reached out to other real estate agents to try to find somebody to talk to, and his name came up right away, and he was so responsive and so friendly and just informative. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. You normally don't think about that when you're thinking about HOAs, people being friendly, but
Poor
he's a
HOAs.
he's a good guy.
Lifetime is
Right.
going to change that. There
Yes.
we go.
Yes, I hope so. Hopefully they tear down. Never mind. Anyway, as far as quick announcements,
Yes.
so it is the last
Saturday,
the
yeah.
last Saturday of the month. So last Saturday of the month we do our home buyer seminar. So Denise and Belinda will be presenting that.
Yay.
That's going to be at the Fairnon office on Align Mortgage, Fairnon's office off of Fairnon and I-10 or Days of Avala and I-10. So Come on out. It's from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And there'll be some donuts and coffee and stuff like that. So please come out for that.
We'll also have Chris Fouts there
Yes.
presenting. So if you have any lender questions, and then we have Harley Walters from Texas Credit Repair. So if you have any questions about improving your credit.
Yep. We had a good little turnout last time. So hopefully we have a good turnout this time and be able to help some people, put them on the
Please,
direction.
I can't eat all those donuts.
Yeah.
And starting next Tuesday,
Yes, I don't have a slide for that.
we are starting our Homes for Heroes Explained webinar. We're going to do it. It's going to be recurring webinar every Tuesday at I
Noon.
think 12. Wednesday, I thought we did Wednesday evening at 6. And then the first Saturday of the month, I believe we're going to make it at 9:30. So a.m. Yes.
Just making sure.
Yes. And so people can go on if you are one of those hero groups that we talked about, teachers, military, medical,
Police, firefighters.
first responders, and want to know more about the program. We're going to explain it and hopefully get more people, have more people know about the program.
Yeah, how it can benefit you.
Yep. So next Tuesday is the first one. So
Yes.
links have already been sent out through Facebook. You can actually look on Eventbrite. Go to that website and you can type in our name and you can see all the other events that we do, because this is not the only 2 events we do. But any other things before we close out?
No, nothing. It's just very exciting that we have all these things going on.
Yeah, it's
I
been
know.
crazy.
Yes.
Weather's been crazy.
We're
87
everywhere.
degrees.
There's no escaping us. Just join.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, once again, make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you missed this video, or you're not going to know if you missed this video, but this and all videos are actually posted onto our YouTube channel after this. So make sure you check out our YouTube channel. All right. Well, you all have a good weekend.
Yes.
Have a good week. Stay warm. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be kind of chilly this week too, right?
Yeah.
The weekend too.
At least chilly for San Antonio.
Yeah. Well, chilly for San Antonio, which.
I know all our friends up north are like, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
And
No
we will
snow.
see you next Thursday.
Yeah. Next Thursday. Take care, Denise. Bye.
Bye.